April 1945. As the Red Army closes in on Berlin, Adolf Hitler hides deep underground in his bunker, paranoid, delusional, and surrounded by ruin. Above him, his once mighty Third Reich crumbles. This is the story of how Nazi Germany fell, street by street, bomb by bomb, and how Berlin became ground zero for the end of World War II. The Battle of Berlin began on April 16, 1945. After years of brutal warfare, the Soviet Union launched its final assault on the German capital. 2.5 million Soviet troops, supported by thousands of tanks and artillery, smashed into the remaining German defenses. Hitler refused to leave Berlin. He believed, or at least hoped, that his armies would push back the Soviets. But most of the Wehrmacht had already collapsed. All that remained were old men, boys from the Hitler Youth, and scattered SS units. Berlin was already broken. Air raids had flattened neighborhoods. Food was scarce. Civilians hid in basements, clinging to life as artillery shells rained down. Smoke filled the streets. Water was cut. Fires spread with no one left to stop them. As Soviet troops pushed deeper into the city, resistance became desperate. Street by street, house by house, fighting was brutal. Snipers hid in apartment windows. Panzerfaust-wielding teenagers ambushed Soviet tanks from behind rubble. But the outcome was never in doubt. Beneath the shattered Reich Chancellery, Hitler and his closest followers sheltered in the Führer bunker. The mood was grim. Even Hitler's most loyal officers could see it was over. But Hitler refused to surrender. He ranted about traitors and fantasized about imaginary counterattacks. On April 22nd, he admitted aloud for the first time, "The war is lost." Still, he stayed in the bunker, writing his final will and marrying Eva Braun in a brief midnight ceremony. Outside, the Soviets encircled Berlin completely. On April 30th, 1945, Adolf Hitler and Eva Braun took their own lives. Their bodies were burned just outside the bunker entrance as ordered. With Hitler dead, the Nazi regime unraveled in hours. Command passed to Admiral Karl Donitz, but it was already too late. The remaining German forces in Berlin were cut off, exhausted, and surrounded. Some units tried to break out. Most were captured or killed. On May 2nd, General Helmuth Weidling formally surrendered the city to the Soviets. The Battle of Berlin was over. The price of victory was staggering. The Soviets lost over 80,000 men. German military and civilian deaths may have reached 150,000 or more. Entire blocks of Berlin were reduced to rubble. Water and electricity were gone. Half of the population was homeless. For the people of Berlin, the end of the war was not peace, it was survival. Looting, revenge killings, and chaos ruled the streets for days. But at last, the guns had fallen silent. With Berlin in ruins, the Allies divided the city into 4 zones: American, British, French, and Soviet. Tensions quickly grew between the East and West, setting the stage for the Cold War. Berlin was no longer the capital of a nation, it became the symbol of a world divided. In the East, the Soviets rebuilt Berlin with a new ideology. In the West, Germany's reconstruction would follow a different path. But for now, Berlin was simply a broken city, struggling to find its future in the ashes of its past. For Germans, the fall of Berlin marked the end of the Nazi nightmare. But it also brought guilt, sorrow, and questions that would take generations to answer. How had it come to this? Why had so many followed a man into destruction? The city became a graveyard of a regime and a mirror of a broken nation. Yet in time, Berlin would rise again. Its streets rebuilt, its wounds faced, its lessons remembered. The fall of Berlin was not just the collapse of a city. It was the death of an empire built on hate. It was the final chapter in the bloodiest war in human history. And it was the beginning of something new. A long, difficult journey toward peace, remembrance, and rebuilding.